and warm welcome to our show Efauji Talks, an IESECCI initiative which promises to get inspiring stories and brilliant speakers on board each episode. I am Shavinder, the brand head of the show, and we are currently showcasing the spirit of womanhood of our Choose to Challenge series. Please welcome on our show today Dr. Smita Awasthi, a psychologist and a behavioral scientist. Hello and warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Shavi. It's a pleasure being here and talking about something that I love to talk about.
Wonderful. So before we start our conversation, let me acquaint viewers to our guest today. Well, in 2004, she became the first board certified behavioral analyst from Asia and the region, and she provided leadership in dissemination of scientific interventions for people with autism as a mentor, educator, and interventionist. She is the founder, executive director, and CEO of Momentum India, the first systems-based organization which provides consultation, one-on-one therapy, parent training services to pediatric, adolescent, and adults with autism. Dr. Awasthi introduced the first and the only USA certified ABA course which brings highly specialized knowledge for autism intervention. As program director of BMI VCS, she has inspired innumerable students to study behavior analysis. While I was understanding her profile, I also learned it's her initiative and leadership that she has been honored with the Governor's Award for Dissemination of Autism in the most populous state of UP, India in 2005, Swayam Siddha Award by Metro City Rotary in 2013, the Saba Award from the Association of Behavior Analysis International USA 2019 for the dissemination of behavior analysis. As an organization providing services to large cohort of people, students from various foreign universities, such as University of Stockholm, Sweden, Brock University, Canada, University of North Texas, have collaborated BMT. Wonderful. It's amazing to have you our guest today. And I'm sure our conversation is going to add a lot of value addition to my show today. So without wasting much time, I've learned that you are a specialist in behavior scientist, So what is autism and why is it a spectrum?
Okay, so autism is a very, very complex neurological disorder. And people get affected by autism before the age of 3. It's not that autism can strike somebody anytime as an adult. It is only seen for children who are below the age of 3 years of age. And the diagnosis actually is having two parts to it, two domains to it. One part is the part where a child has sociopragmatic language disorder, communication difficulties, and does not show socialization with other children and people. The second part of the disorder is where they engage in repetitive behaviors, and that is the second domain of the diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis is completely observation-based. So it is not a medical intervention where you can do a test and say, yes, you have a diagnosis of autism. It is observation-based diagnosis. So anybody who's showing these symptoms will be called having an autism, being on the autism spectrum disorder. Now, when we are talking about the spectrum, it is a spectrum mainly because there are some children who have a lot of difficulties. There are some children who have a few difficulties, some kids who have few difficulties but comorbidities, which means associated problems along with autism. And then there are some children who are having just a touch of autism and they don't have too many problems. So when a child comes to us for intervention, despite a diagnosis of being on the autism spectrum disorder, we don't know where the child is going to be, whether it's going to be on the severe end of the spectrum or it's going to be the very mild end of the spectrum, whether the comorbidities are going to be present or not. Now, let me explain this a little bit more. I mean, I was just looking at some of the latest data, and what it says is there are some children who actually have difficulties of IQ. So there are about 30-31% of children who are on the spectrum disorder, they have IQ issues, which mean they have very, very low IQs. Then there are about 33% of children on the spectrum who will be on the average to high IQ side. So they can be very intelligent, or they are just like all of us or any other child. And then there are the rest of them who are somewhere in between, who are kind of borderline in their IQs. So when the child is diagnosed, what is the issue, what are the difficulties that the child faces cannot be just seen and labeled. It takes time to understand the child. There are inputs that come from the parent, then there are observations, detailed observations one makes over a period of time. And then we know that this is where the problem is lying. And these are the gaps. These are the strengths. And so it becomes a spectrum disorder.
Great. Dr. Smita, I've been an academic head for past many years, and this conversation is really going to help me as academic head, because when my educators, my teachers come to ask me, even the new NEP speaks a lot of inclusive education that is to be, taken care. And that's when we as educators face the problem, where the intervention is required and when it has to be referred to a specialist for that matter. Thank you so much for enlightening us on that. Which is the most researched and scientific treatment or therapy, when we talk about autism for that matter?
Autism spectrum disorder has a huge, long list of treatments, starting from horse therapy, dolphin therapy, water therapy, music therapy, right up to a variety of therapy, including play therapy. I mean, how can play be therapy? Play is play, So the scientific approaches, which have been heavily researched and they are published in journals, and one of those researches is based on the science of applied behavior analysis. So applied behavior analysis is a science, and with this science, we can modify positive behaviors in people in any field. We can use ABA principles in the office. We can use ABA principles in prisons to change behaviors. We use them with adults with mental health issues, and autism is one of them. So applied behavior analysis is one of the most researched sciences. There are some other scientific methods also, which are based on, for example, occupational therapy and speech and language pathology. And these are also methods which are scientific because they are well researched. However, applied behavior analysis is a science where behavior change is made across an individual. Yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So, do we have these ABA enough professionals in India, who can actually take care of these issues,
That is such an interesting question, because in India, we hardly have specialists, especially ABA specialists, behavior scientists who are available. And that was the reason most of the people would study abroad and then they would, work in India. Then we started the course. That's what led us to starting a course with the help of the BACB International. And they helped us to start the ABA course. After we started the ABA course, we have a decent influx, but the problem is that most of them are based in metro cities. So then there are hubs of people in Bangalore, in Delhi, in Mumbai, and some places like that. And we really don't have enough ABA professionals in India, honestly.
I totally agree with you. I have recently attended the Pan India Principal Workshop, which was a mandate for all principal, and they have emphasized that each school must have one special educator, and
Yes.
and we don't have special educators. We don't have a special educator. There's a lack of special educators for that matter. So that point is truly, highlighted by you that we don't have those many professionals. So when a parent comes to know, or a educator comes to know, so what is meant by the early intervention, and how does it helps to take care of that, I can't say the word problem because it's a sensitive topic altogether.
Yes. When a parent observes that there are some differences in their children and they get the child diagnosed, couple of years back, I would say maybe about 2 decades back, by the time they would diagnose, the child would be 5 or 6 and pretty old, and there would be a huge gap between where the child should be and where he is. However, in the last few years, because of a lot of awareness campaigns and then the World Autism Awareness Day, we have found that parents are coming forward and they are being diagnosed quite early. Now, early is a relative word, you know. Three couple of years back for us, 3-year-olds was early diagnosis. But now we are saying children who are coming at the age of 18 months, 24 months, you know, these are the early diagnosed children. Now, when a child is diagnosed very, very early, based on, because this is a disorder which is based on observation. When we see a child who is not making eye contact, for example, at let's say 18, 20 months, okay, it's easier to work on that and reduce the gap. So you provide intervention for a couple of months, and the child is going to start looking at people, looking at all around his environment. And that particular aspect of the diagnosis, that is no eye contact, can be removed very, very early. However, if the same child comes at 4 years of age and has no eye contact, then the gap is already like 4 years, or maybe say 3.5 years, because the baby, the moment he's born, his eyes start following the parents very, very early. So early intervention actually helps with keeping that gap as low as possible. So the whole intervention is planned in a way that the core skills can be worked on. Children can appear and start behaving in manner that is like how any neurotypical child behaves. So just for example, if a child has a diagnosis of autism and he's happy playing with him by himself, he's happy playing in his own world. So if there's another peer or another child of the same age group in the same room, they wouldn't even look at them. They wouldn't be aware. However, when you start with early intervention, then you teach the child to approach the other child, interact with the other child, hold his hands, go around, walk around with him, and do all those things that neurotypical children, would do. So the gap can be reduced very, very early when early intervention is provided.
Absolutely. It's like earlier the better, that's when we can, as you have rightly pointed out, the gap can be reduced for that matter. So what, according to you, should the families do after there is a diagnosis of ASD,
All right. What parents should do is, the first thing is, and it's very hard. I mean, before I go on to that, I have to say it is so hard. It's like going through a period of grief for the parents because they don't know what happened to their child. So it's a very difficult period when the parent has to actually not look at their emotions, but then take action. And you know what happens with people when you're going through so much confusion that taking the right action becomes so difficult. So parents start running around, they start meeting people, they start Googling. Dr. Google becomes everything, provides all the information. Many times they take incorrect decisions very early for their children. So just to put everything straight, the first thing that the parent needs to do the moment they have the diagnosis is, at whatever age, is they need to stop doing everything else and they need to start playing with the child. Okay, they need to start interacting. Now, interaction and play is not a structured play that you sit down with a puzzle or you sit down with a toy and you start doing that. No, it's physical play, physical interaction. So they are running around with their child, they are tickling the child, they are, doing things with their child, rough and tumble play, okay, and all of that. Assuming that the child's diagnosis has happened between the age of, let's say, 20 months to say 4 years. Even 4 years old child is a small baby, So playing with the child, the more they play with the child, the more the child will start waiting for them, looking at them. We don't have to work on eye contact then, because the parent themselves have become the fun factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is the first thing that needs to be done. The other thing that they need to do is they need to read up and identify the right kind of people. Of course, because we have seen tremendous improvement with applied behavior analysis. So I would say that they should seek for somebody who has studied applied behavior analysis, because there are a lot of people who are around who have not studied, and then they still say that we are doing ABA. So they should identify the right professional, talk to them, seek their guidance. Maybe it's possible that they may find somebody who's far away from their city, but at least that person can guide them correctly, refer them to the right people. I mean, I may not be living in Bhubaneswar, but I know that who is there in Bhubaneswar who can at least help the child to some extent and do the right things. So guide, so seek the right people, take their guidance, talk to them, see if they understand the child. It's not just like, I know everything and I'm going to provide therapy. No, can I guide? Do I understand the child? And the parent, when we talk to the parent knows that this person understands my child. When we understand the child, then we are able to plan the correct treatment. So that is the second thing that they have to do. The third thing is, once they have found the right professional and they have entrusted their child with the professional, they need to be waiting for seeing what are the changes that are coming in the child. Now, when we start working with the child, we say that we'll do these changes in a month's time. We can surely meet these goals in a month's time, and then they should be waiting to see if those goals are met. Also, many times we say that, yes, the child is doing it, okay, in the therapy, but then the child is not doing it anywhere else. Those things should be brought up, they should be discussed with the person who's providing the therapy. That, yes, the child is doing with you, but the child is not doing with me. Can you do something about it? Can you guide me? So the next thing is asking those right questions and informing the person that I see beautiful change when you work with the child, but I don't see any change at home with my child. So bringing that up and discussing that. And then finally, the last thing is getting involved themselves and getting the right kind of training so that they can also collaborate, and both the professional and the parent can put in maybe 30 to 40 hours in a week of therapy. And therapy doesn't mean sitting at the table. Therapy can happen in the park. Therapy can happen while the child is on the swing. Therapy can happen anywhere. So sitting down with them and taking a plan, getting trained. Now, as far as ABA is concerned, I just want to add one small thing over here. There's a lot of misinformation. People think that, oh, you can just observe somebody working and then you can go ahead and do it. And then, what happens over here is that the programming, the teaching methods, they are very child specific. They are designed specially for the child. And then there is this correct way of doing ABA, and then there is this incorrect way of doing ABA. Yes.
There should be more of a help than to be a nuisance for them, because as you mentioned, because we have recently set up a resource room in our school, which has become a constitutional mandate for all schools pan India. And I can relate to what all you're talking. We have procured those kind of, you know, play way equipments and therapy related things. So very true. And each person, each individual has its own disabilities. It cannot be, one for all. It has to be, specifically designed that way. Thank you so much for bringing out that as well in a very clear and explicit manner. So, is autism a lifelong disorder, or is there any cure for that?
This is another very interesting question, because any parent who comes to you, they want to know that too, and they want hope. So let's put it this way: if provided the correct treatment, every child progresses. Every child will progress. The child will progress at his own pace, depending on his own potential. Now, if a child has a lot of difficulties, like a difficulty around, let's say, IQ or comorbidities, so then what comorbidities would be around learning disability along with autism, or let's say severe sleep issues around, or seizures along with autism, then obviously the whole growth slows down because of these other so many factors. Then there are children who come with a few issues, and then these kids, if provided the right intervention, they actually can come out of all the symptoms. And when I say, when I'm talking about cure, what I mean over here is that if any outsider sees that child, they can't make out the child as autism. Okay. Right. They will talk normally, they will communicate normally, they will ask questions, they will do things, they will follow instructions, they will learn in the classroom, normal classroom. And that is what is the definition of cure. Okay, now, if there is something inside them that maybe they're not very social, okay, that doesn't mean that they are autistic. All right, it just means that they are different. That's how they are. Okay, but symptoms of autism, oh yes, definitely. We have a lot of children, and the parents, they are so thankful because they know that where their children were a couple of years back and where they are now. Of course, it's a process. It won't happen in 5 days or 10 days or 1 year. Many of our very high functioning children who came as medium functioning, then gradually they became high functioning, and then today they are out of autism completely. So we are seeing more and more of those children today where you can say that they are cured because they don't show those symptoms. However, there are some children who will be moderate. So they will be having a gap of maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years, and they will continue to learn. They will learn slowly and they will catch up, except that there will be a delay in that.
Yeah. Great. That's very interesting information that you shared with us, because then we need to understand the different levels as such. Let's not rate every child who's having some kind of disorder to that seriousness. One last question. I'm really running short of time. What kind of rehab services are available in India, for that matter, if we need to know that?
I think the rehab services can only be talked about if we know about the prevalence. And right now, in fact, I was looking at a 2019 study by Chauhan et al. From ICMR Chandigarh, and they have mentioned that the scarcity of high quality data and the population-based epidemiological studies were needed on an urgent basis. And the reason why they say this, I mean, urban population, rural population, the reason why high quality data is required to understand the prevalence of autism in India is to plan the rehab services. So right now, what is happening is that it's more like good Samaritans who are taking lead, they are coming forward based on their own population that they are interacting with. So somebody is in Mumbai, good Samaritan, comes forward, does something. Somebody in Hyderabad, that's how it is. There are rehab services which are available. A lot of therapists are available, but as you're aware, even special educators today, we have a shortage of them. So looking at the size of our country, until unless we have a clear consensus, and not a consensus, sorry, census on how many people are being affected, and looking at that, we have to plan what's going to happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I remember when I was working using these services, say 20 years back, at that time, I could not see the future of what's going to happen today. Today, some things are much better, like diagnosis is happening much faster, but some things like rehab services, they are really, it's a pitiable state right now.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Awasthi. It is a wonderful, very informative session today, and I'm glad that I hosted you on a very important topic that we have discussed today. I want to say it takes someone special to teach someone special, and you are doing a wonderful job, and all the very best. And I wish all the very happiness to you and your team for spreading that kind of knowledge to everyone and for all your future endeavors. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to talk, because every time we learn something new and we always want to share. So these platforms really help us to spread that word. So thank you so much, and keep doing the good work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awasthi. So if you wish to share more inspiring stories, please contact me at shavi@efaujitalks.com. I thank all our viewers to like, share, and subscribe. And do not forget to mention your views on today's episode, which has added a lot of value on the very important topic, which was shared by Dr. Smita Awasthi. For more interesting stories, please stay tuned. Till then, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Fauji Talks is brought to you by IESECCI, Indian Ex-Defence Service Employees Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Thanks to its vast veteran network and global and pan-India associates, IESECCI can carry out various commerce facilitations and CSR projects across India and the world. Some of IESECCI's core capability areas are Skill India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, any ex-serviceman welfare or job program, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan related projects, telemedicine and healthcare training and job scheme, Save Water scheme, defense industry SME, MSME cluster and hub development, maritime training and inland water training with job facilitation, Canada study, job and permanent residency opportunity, e-commerce, Andaman and Nicobar commerce opportunities. IESECCI's global reach includes countries like Indonesia, Slovakia, Canada, Nepal, Singapore, Rwanda, USA, UK. Above all, it is IESECCI's effort to create a veterans brand made by the veterans, for the veterans and made up of the veterans. Every Indian's support is invaluable in this journey. IESECCI is a registered society for ex-servicemen's welfare and envisions that every veteran should be a part of India's economic growth story. It is the aim of IESECCI to create an enabling commerce platform that will empower and synergize the veterans' talent pool. This is possible only with the support of entrepreneurs, businesses and consultants from civil society. All proceeds, if any, are utilized for the welfare of ex-servicemen and for public charity.